Welcome to the May Dev Diary. This video will show off some of the projects that I've been working on recently for the Atari 7800. This update will cover 4 projects: Danger Zone, Track and Field, Sonic Runner and Project EXO. Instead of just showing off some screen grabs or a bit of video, I wanted to do something different with the update and talk through the work in progress. Let me know in the comments if you like this format and what you think of the project so far. First up, I'd like to introduce Danger Zone. Danger Zone is a homage to Atari's 1977 launch title Combat, or Tank as it was known on the Sears console. Danger Zone is about 70% complete and has actually progressed a lot faster than I expected it to. Danger Zone is 2-player only. At this stage I'm not sure whether I'll try to implement an enemy or an AI option, as I want to stay as close to the original formula as I can. Setup is where you can configure every aspect of the game. Instead of having a select option with many variants to skip through, I wanted to provide a simple configuration experience to let people pick and choose how they play their game and how they set their battle up. So Player 1 and Player 2 setup is where you can configure your airplane and camouflage. Player 1 will default to the F-16 Falcon, Player 2 defaults to the MiG-21. Both planes are available to both players, plus a third option, the Eurofighter Typhoon. Each airplane can have its camouflage colours adjusted from a set palette. Extra colours can be unlocked from the code screen on the title page. The MiG camouflage option only changes the nose cone colour. I did think about changing the MiG out, but the aircraft has such an iconic shape I decided to keep it in. I did think about including the F-14 Tomcat that's on the title page, but that aircraft in reality is a lot bigger than the others, so scaling might have been an issue and it might have looked a little strange. Eventually the Typhoon will have its own distinct camouflage colours. Right now it shares most with the F-16. The other setup options will allow you to adjust things like the clouds, how many, whether they're moving or not, whether your guns are fast or slow, whether you have limited afterburner fuel, things like that. Game type will allow you to select either a timed game or a first to a set score. And finally, save and load will check to see whether you have a save key or a high score cart or an expansion module, and if detected it will allow you to save and load your favourite settings and all of your unlocks. You can also reset to the default settings from this screen. With the 7800 having the ability to use more sprite colours more easily, the first really noticeable change is the aircraft sprites themselves. A flat top-down approach to the graphics didn't really work well, so I tried to introduce some depth and perspective with shading and angles as the player turns. As in the original Combat, each aircraft has 16 possible directions. Speed boost and brakes are in and working, but they do need some balancing right now. The same with shooting. There is some rudimentary gunplay in this build, but the bullets are sometimes coming out of the aircraft at odd angles, so there's still some work to be done there. I also think the title page would really benefit from a rendition of something like Danger Zone or the Top Gun theme. Unfortunately, my music composition skills are pretty terrible, so if any musicians want to have a stab at that, I'd love to hear from you. Konami's Track and Field is one of my all-time favourite arcade games. I'm utterly terrible at it, but I love it nonetheless. I've played this game quite a bit on MAME, and I've seen quite a few good and some not so good conversions. The C64 got a particularly good conversion of Track and Field, and there was also a pretty decent version for the 2600, considering the limitations of the platform. I recently saw the NES version of Track and Field, and that got me thinking, could this be done on the 7800? So I started tinkering with some sprites and code. I decided to keep the sprites quite big to preserve the detail from the arcade version. The legs have a different frame count to the upper body in the arcade version, which was causing some head scratching, so I resorted to some video capture from MAME so I could map out and count the frames correctly. This analysis also had a nice side effect that I was able to split the sprite horizontally in two to save space. So instead of 12 full frames of 36 pixels high, I ended up with 6 upper frames and 6 lower frames of 16 pixels each to create the 12 different combinations in the run cycle, just like the arcade version. This saves a little space. Right now I'm working on getting the running controls right and mirroring the arcade button mashing feel. The 7800 having 2 buttons on the gamepad lends itself well to this scheme, buttons to run, D-pad to jump or throw, etc. Probably implement a secondary control set to support joysticks for those that have a Pro Stick instead of a D-pad. And of course support for the track and field controller. I have a lot of the other elements for the game already built and ready to be integrated. Things like the flags for the parallax in the background, distance markers for the track, hurdles, sandpit, finishing line and so on, as well as all the scoreboard elements that need to be updated. I would also like to consider adding Atari Vox support for the speech, just like the arcade version. So there's a long way to go on this one, but it's starting to shape up reasonably well. This next project, Sonic Runner, started off as really just as a bit of fun, just to move some large sprites around the screen, see what the 7800 could do. I started tinkering with the track code from Track and Field that I'd built and decided to repurpose it for something different. I had the idea to make an endless runner type game like Cannabolt or something similar. The sprites were inspired from Sonic 1 on the Game Gear, and I converted them over to the 7800 as placeholders just in case I decide to take this forward into a better project. I then gave the Sonic sprite the zippy treatment, changed the colour and tweaked the graphics slightly. This one really is just an experiment at this stage. I included it just because I thought it might be interesting for people to see. Will it turn into a game? Probably not, but if it does, there would be a lot of work that would need to be done to make this into the game that I would want to play. Things like more obstacles, more parallax layers, different changes to the scenery, height, tunnels, things like that. Maybe one for the future. And also I think I'd have to change the graphics significantly more, as I don't think Sega will be too impressed with me borrowing their mascot. Finally, I'd like to show something called Project Exo. The theme for this game will be a combination of adventure and cybernoid. You need to break your buddies out of an intergalactic space prison, so to do that you have to explore, shoot and puzzle your way around each level and break them out. So far the game engine is starting to take shape nicely, with movement code and obstacle code working together well. The movement code was a challenge to get working right due to using a 12 pixel wide sprite and 8 pixel wide playfield elements to group together. The player's ship was getting constantly stuck on walls or embedded in the floor, and no joke, it took me a good week to figure out how to fix that, and in the end I had to resort to a trusty spreadsheet to help visualise the sprite positioning and the impact positions on the playfield. The idea is that each level will have its own unique look and feel. Right now you see a combination of different look and feel elements within the demo. This is really just so that I could start to work on and flesh out the engine some more. Right now the game sits on a 48K cart, but I have a feeling this one will go up to a 128K bang switch cart, as I'd like to include more elements, more levels, and lots of things like cutscenes and title pages and things like that. And just to close out, I just want to make a couple of quick acknowledgements. I'd like to say a big thanks to Mike Sarner for his excellent 7800 Basic. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Matt Smith for Atari Dev Studio, and also to Al Yarusso over at Atari Age for supporting homebrew developers. Thanks guys. If you like the video, please feel free to like and share, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see more of. Thanks for watching.